A year ago, Australian women said enough was enough. It was called a turning point, a moment of reckoning, and anger at sexual violence that peaked after rape allegations that shook the highest offices of politics. So, has anything changed a year on?
I think what's changed is that nobody can hide anymore. I think people are becoming more conscious of their own behaviour.
The energy in the country has changed. The sense of confidence I feel when I speak to women and young people about the impact they can actually have.
Brittany Higgins is at the heart of this movement. Her allegation that she was raped inside a minister's office in Parliament House, which was her workplace, shocked the country and galvanized women. She's become one of the best-known activists here, but is doubtful about how much meaningful progress has actually been made.
I stand here today fearful that this moment of transformative potential, the bravery of all those women who spoke up and stood up and said enough, is in danger of being minimised to a flare-up, a blip on the radar, a month-long wonder in the national conversation.
Now, there have been some concrete developments.
Affirmative consent legislation has passed the New South Wales Parliament in a major win for survivors of sexual assault.
If you think back 6 months ago, even in 2018 when I came forward with my story, I would never have thought that we would be at this point.
And thanks to a campaign by another young Australian woman, Chanel Contos, state governments across the country have now committed to teaching consent to kids from the age of 5. But perhaps the biggest change needs to come from the top.
Well, shocking accounts of bullying and sexual harassment inside the nation's parliament have been revealed in a new report.
1 in 3 workers say they've been sexually harassed. Only 1 in 10 reported the misconduct, mostly because they didn't think anything would be done about it.
The victims were disproportionately women, and the country's Sex Discrimination Commissioner didn't hold back.
Women we spoke to told us they felt lucky when they had not directly experienced sexual harassment or sexual assault.
The Jenkins report made dozens of recommendations, including ending the drinking culture, improving leadership, and this.
I am sorry. We are sorry.
Scott Morrison's critics weren't impressed, asking whether this was him playing politics in an election year. But whether or not you buy the sincerity, it was still significant.
Spurring the conversations that hundreds of thousands of Australian households would have had that night sitting around the TV room. That's where the real cultural change is going to come from.
Australians also saw a group of women in Parliament watching as the leader of the country apologised. But take a closer look at that picture. All of them are white. Some say that women of colour have been erased from this conversation, their stories and their work on sexual violence often ignored.
That also just excludes the reality that sexual harassment and abuse happens across all age groups and demographics. We still very much uphold the belief and perpetuate the belief through the nature of media coverage and the names that politicians use that you just do not matter as much. Your life doesn't matter as much. Your trauma doesn't matter as much if you're not white.
One Indigenous Australian woman is now leading a campaign to try and shift that balance.
The way that we're going to do that is by survivors who are already prominent, who already have platforms, bringing in survivors of diversity. They're going to force people to start listening to other people's stories, not just their own.
Australians will soon vote in a national election, and after a year of high-profile debate, gender equality and especially respect for women and girls are things few politicians dare to ignore.
Every interview I do, every supermarket I visit, the issue gets raised with me.
Inside Parliament, there's still so much work to be done. But from those closest to it, some hope.
To walk into the chamber, to be on my feet debating, I feel safer than I've felt in a long time.
The arrogance of this government runs through everything.
I don't feel as intimidated. I don't feel as harassed as previously. So it's definitely improved for me. But I know for other women, they don't feel as safe still, and we've got a long way to go.
Enough is enough! Enough is enough! Enough is enough!